Robby, what's on your radar?
Well, there was a little noticed hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. CEOs who work in the airline industry testified before a meeting of the U.S. Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. In attendance were Doug Parker, CEO of American Airlines, Gary Kelly, CEO of Southwest Airlines, United CEO Scott Kirby, Delta Vice President John Lafter, and Sarah Nelson, who is president of the Flight Attendants Association. Republican Senator Roger Wicker asked an interesting question about the air quality on flights and received an equally interesting response. Let's watch.
What do they tell you about the quality of air with respect to the virus as compared to, say, a theater, a church, a concert hall, perhaps a hearing room? What do they tell you?
Senator, you're right. We did partner with some science experts, such as the Mayo Clinic, and part of the discussion on the HEPA filters on board the aircraft was to understand what that air turnover rate was and how the air quality on board the aircraft would compare to other facilities. And I can't speak to this room or any theater, but I think we all generally agree now that the cycle of the way air turns over in a pressurized air cabin and the filtration system is superior to many indoor spaces that you can be.
Effectively, anywhere that you're going to be indoors, the airplane is the safest place that you can be indoors. It's because of the air filtration.
Safer than a theater, safer than a church.
Far safer than a theater. Safer, actually, than an intensive care unit, because we have HEPA-grade filters, but we filter the air 20 to 30 times an hour, and a typical ICU is 2 to 3 times an hour. Aircraft are a remarkably safe environment. The takeaway that I remember most is that being next to someone on an airplane, sitting next to them, is the equivalent of being 15 feet away from them in a typical building.
That's amazing. The air quality on airplanes is superior to virtually every other indoor space, including an ICU. Wow. So an obvious question springs to mind, doesn't it? And kudos to Senator Wicker because he asked it.
Would we ever, do you think, be able to get on an airplane without masks?
Well, again, I would echo colleagues' comments on the quality of the air. It's the statistics I recall is 99.97% of airborne pathogens are captured by the HEPA filtering system, and it's turned over every 2 or 3 minutes. We use UT Southwestern and Stanford School of Medicine, so we just add to this prestigious list. But I think the case is very strong that masks don't add much, if anything, in the air cabin environment. It's very safe and very high quality compared to any other indoor setting.
Mr. Parker?
I concur. The aircraft is the safest place you can be. It's true of all of our aircraft. They all have these HEPA filters and the same airflow.
Well, there you have it. Masks on airplanes are not adding much additional value given the air filtration systems on planes. The CEOs of these airlines don't think we need them, and they think that because they had scientists extensively study the issue. This revelation came as a disappointing shock to Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, a Democrat in favor of keeping pandemic restrictions in place. Here's what he said.
I'm shocked that some of the CEOs here today have suggested that we no longer need mask mandates on planes. Ms. Nelson, in the face of Omicron, children under 5 who still cannot be vaccinated, thousands of flight attendants who protect us every day, and that we still allow unvaccinated people on planes to fly in our country, do you believe that we should be lifting the mask mandate for people who are on planes in our country?
And if you caught that, it's clear Markey wants to deny the unvaccinated the ability to travel by plane at all. And he's not alone. I've seen Democratic pundits and commentators increasingly pushing in this direction. CNN's Leana Wen, for instance, has all but suggested the unvaccinated should not be allowed to leave their homes at all, which is cruel and it's wrong. But let's just concentrate on the mask mandate for now. The air travel mask mandate is really annoying on long flights, and it's militantly enforced. I've flown a few times in the past several weeks, and each time I've been sternly instructed to put my mask over my mouth and my nose and to keep it on in between bites of food and sips of coffee or wine. I don't like it, but fine, I can deal with it. But I'm not a parent with a small child. For many of those passengers, the mask mandate makes air travel all but impossible. Don't take it from me, take it from them. Writing for the Deseret News, the journalist Bethany Mandel explains that the airplane mask mandate is a disaster for families. If your kid throws a tantrum and refuses to wear them in a restaurant, well, you can leave the restaurant. You can't leave the plane mid-flight, and so the attendants will basically keep harassing you until you successfully wrestle that mask onto your toddler and you keep it there. It's difficult, it's embarrassing, and we now know, largely pointless. Mandel interviewed several parents. One of them, Kelsey Hall, the mother of a toddler, said she is, quote, looking down the barrel at not being able to see her husband at his ports of call when he deploys with the Navy because she's unable to travel with their child to meet him there. She told Mandel, I don't want to risk a 6+ hour flight each way when she can't keep a mask on for longer than 5 minutes. Mandel also points out that our CDC is crazier on this issue than the World Health Organization. The WHO says that children under the age of 5 should not have to wear a mask. The CDC says you have to be under the age of 2 to not wear a mask. So let's stop this madness right now before it becomes a permanent regulation by default, just like our equally absurd and equally unnecessary TSA security measures. And if people are doing long-distance car travel, and they are, because they can't fly, because they have young kids who are not, who will not wear a mask for 6 years, and they'll cause a scene, and it's embarrassing, and the flight attendants get really mad, and you might be taken off the flight after, you might be greeted by security if you actually make it. People are driving instead, and driving is a lot more dangerous than flying. There are car accidents. Thousands of people die in car crashes each year. So. And after listening to those comments, they studied. So each of those airline CEOs said they had a different university do it, said, wow, the air quality here is really good, as good as you can get in indoor spaces. And lots of other indoor spaces, you don't have people required to be masked. Restaurants, movie theaters, it's different regulations everywhere in the country. But so why force it on kids?
Right. Well, it's a clash between politics, preconception and intuition on one side, and science on the other. And so Democrats are like, we're supposed to follow the science. I've been saying follow the science. Science is saying that the air is better than in an ICU. But you've got all of these other things combining to say, but it just doesn't feel right. It feels wrong because masks have become part of identity, part of your political identity, and as your political identity has become a part of yourself, it's related to your health and your concern about you catching something, you passing something on to somebody, and the result is you don't want to hear that science because it conflicts with your preconceived understanding of what it ought to be. And when I say intuition, you're in a little can in the sky.
Right.
So you're like, well, come on, scientists, what are you telling me that the air's? I'm in this stuffy little can with all of these packed in with all of these people. There's no way this air is clean. And they're like, no, it is. Like, I don't believe you. But if you can go to a concert outside or a baseball game, football game outside, and you can have 50,000 people not wearing masks and
screaming at each other, like talking and projecting. Planes, you don't usually talk to the people around you very much.
Nobody's chanting and yelling, or they shouldn't be.
Right.
Except "Let's go, Brandon" or whatever.
They're chanting. They're all chanting "Let's go, Brandon." And also planes. But air travel is the area, like the domain where we have allowed the most, like the maximum amount of authoritarianism to be permissible. Right. So this is where the policies could be stickiest. This stuff could stick around forever. The 9/11 stuff stuck around forever. We're still doing it. It's as stupid. We know now more. Science, again, has showed us that it's pointless. I've discussed this in previous radars, that this is not making us any safer. There's no rationale for the debelting and taking off your shoes and not having liquids of a certain size. It makes no sense, but we do it. We get we watch the TSA drag some old lady out of her wheelchair so they can abuse her every day. No reason for it, but and same with the masks, and we'll all just be masking and taking off our belts forever. And
surrendering on the belts and the lotions probably did create a slippery slope to this being tougher.
Yeah, this is why we listen to libertarians sometimes, But I'm looking forward to your radar coming up next.